I grew up in the legendary town of Moncks Corner, South Carolina. At the time, population approximately 6,000. Moncks Corner is, of course, a destination location for most. But for some reason, I was looking on Wikipedia at the Moncks Corner Wikipedia page, and I had a pretty proud moment when I saw my name on the Moncks Corner Wikipedia page as a notable citizen. I scrolled to see who else was there, and I saw a few athletes, and then I saw someone called Charlamagne the God. I clicked on to see his last name was McKelvey, and he was about my age. I thought, did I know him? Leonard McKelvey, and I didn't remember him. I remember JJ McKelvey, Tamisha McKelvey, all good friends in high school. Larry McKelvey had a big afro, but not Leonard McKelvey. And a few years pass, and then I hear about this hip-hop show called The Breakfast Club, and I see Charlamagne the God, and he's amazing. And I realize it's the same guy. It's Larry McKelvey is Leonard McKelvey is Charlamagne the God. That's him, I remember him. A little more time passes. My friend Eric says, hey, Charlamagne just put a book out. I said, yeah, I know. Black Privilege, it looks amazing. He said, you gotta read it. It's all about Moncks Corner. It's got all the places we grew up. So I picked it up, couldn't put it down. I came in to our video team the next weekend. I said, I just read a book by Charlamagne the God. I'd love to get together with him. I don't really know him or anything. The same day, somebody who was coming in to meet with me said, oh, do you know Charlamagne the God? I said, I just read his book. I want to get together with him. We grew up in the same town. The guy said, yeah, I just saw him the other day. He gave me his number to give to you. We started talking, and I said, you know what we should do? We should go back to Moncks Corner, and I can see where you grew up, you can see where I grew up, and we can compare what it was like for us to grow up in the same town. So I'm headed to Moncks Corner, but I'm gonna go pick Charlamagne up at our old high school. He's doing a turkey drive. I'm gonna go get him. We're gonna take a tour of the corner together, tell some stories.
You want me to drive, or?
Well, I think you should drive us. Thanks for doing this.
You got a whole unit, huh?
Yeah, we're not playing.
Y'all shoot a lot of stuff? It's like Catfish. Y'all even got the car set up with the video cameras.
What did you think it was? So we're gonna go to where he grew up.
You ready?
Let's go. Take us there.
Let's do it. It's always crazy when I come to Berkeley High School, though, because I got kicked out of this school.
Yeah, so you're giving out turkeys at the same school you got kicked out of?
Giving out turkeys at the same school I got kicked out of. It feels like growth. It feels like evolution. It feels like it don't matter how you start. It's about how you finish. You know.
Did you ever get in a fight at Country
I
Club?
got into a fight right here about this is West End.
Now, I had a girlfriend that lived off Highway 17. Do you think we should stop by and see what's going on?
Yeah, that's where we going now. My grandma lived on 17.
Do you think we should see if she did better than me or if she?
You don't go on Facebook and check on that?
I don't do that, Charlamagne. I'm a pastor.
I used to sneak in that house.
That one?
I'm gonna tell you why. That used to be my girlfriend. Used to live right there.
Yeah.
And over there. I don't even think that's the same house. My girlfriend used to live over there. Not the one, not my wife now, but the girl I used to date.
Did you have both at the same time?
No, this was before my wife. But I used to ride my bike all the way from my mom's house, all the way up here, which is about 5-6 miles. And she used to stay with her grandma across the street, and I would sneak into her grandma's house. 17A is so different now, man. Like, this is where my grandmother used to live at. She's dead now. This is so, this is like where I come to meditate, but it's so sad. Like when I talk about returning to my core, this is why I come to sit on my grandma's porch and meditate, but it's so sad because this used to be full of so much life.
Right.
Like now nothing.
Yeah.
Like literally.
Wow.
Nothing. Zero, zilch, nada.
When did your grandmother die?
2006. 2006, yeah. 2006. I used to sit in this field right here and act like I was I used to act like this was an audience. I used to act like this whole field was an audience.
Oh, you had rock concerts,
and this was my stage,
didn't you?
yes. I used to do it right here. And this field used to seem so big to me.
But now, you'd stand right there?
Stand right there.
Would you have a little boombox?
Nah, I would just be air guitaring. Acting like I'm performing to a large crowd. Even back in the day, this porch used to seem huge. Like, there used to be a bunch of us on the porch. Like, when it would rain really hard, we'd all just be sitting on the porch. You remember it used to get, like, real dark.
Yeah, terrible dark.
Oh, super thunderstorms, like, and we'd all just be sitting on this porch.
But you still come out and sit on this porch today?
All the time. All the time, just for meditation purposes. It's funny, because I haven't been in the house in a while. Just because it's kind of depressing, you know what I'm saying? But I used to just sit on this porch, man. I mean, even when I come home right now, I sit right there, I pray, I meditate.
So when you call it in the book, connecting with your core,
yep.
You're, dealing with whatever you're dealing with, industry stuff or success, and you come back here and what do you get? Makes you feel smaller again?
Yes, and that's why I never want to lose that. I never want to lose that feeling of being from a small town. Because there's a certain energy that we have coming from a small town. I talk about it in the book, like, a lot of times.
What do you think we get from that?
We're very appreciative.
Yeah.
This right here lets you know where you come from, and it just makes you appreciate when you're in those big moments, so to speak.
Makes you feel vulnerable too, though. I think it makes you feel human again.
I think a lot of times we deal with a lot of guilt, like when you reach a certain level of success. I mean, anything I've ever written down, long-term goals, short-term goals, I've achieved. Nationally syndicated radio show. I've had a late-night television show on MTV2. I put out a New York Times best-selling book. So it's like I'm happy, but then you find yourself feeling bad because it's certain moments where you don't feel like you appreciate it like you should. That's what makes me feel
You think it's really
bad.
being ungrateful or just being anxious about being able to manage all of it?
I think you're right. I think you just put it in perspective for me. You're anxious about needing to manage all of it, and you don't want to lose it. You don't want to get to that. You don't want to be that person that gets to that point and just messes it all up.
Yeah, I had those moments too where like I'm getting so worked up about complications of ministry and God will remind me, you prayed for this.
Yeah.
You're complaining about what used to be your prayer request. It not only brings gratitude how far you've come, but it puts in perspective everything that your life has become since then. That's why I liked reading about Moncks Corner from your perspective because, I have my own version of this. It's not my grandmother's porch, it's a trailer out in the woods of Macedonia. Did you ever go to Macedonia?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. My dad had a couple acres in Macedonia and he put like a semi-trailer and we went in and hung carpet on the inside, put a window unit, put a roof on it, generators to it, and my band would go play out there. And I can remember just going, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours out there playing music. I'll still go out there, just drive out there, drive up and look at that red tractor trailer in the middle of the woods just to feel the feeling of wanting to make music or something to connect with people, Because now the pressure to connect with people, sometimes it feels like a burden, but if you can get back to that place where you were so desperate to connect with people, desperate to find a calling.
What you said just now is absolutely how you feel. It's like you're from this place, Moncks Corner, South Carolina, where you just want to be heard. You just want to connect with people.
And this porch helps you shrink everything back down.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
There's just energy here, and I love this. Like, I love this.
Yeah, it's cool, man. You want to keep driving?
That's cool.
So I went to First Baptist Church for a revival when I was 16 and came forward for the invitation. That's when I got serious about my relationship with God.
That's when the bug bit you?
Yeah, but there was a guy that I met that was there with the revival team. He pulled me to the side and asked me, about my beliefs, and I was kind of doubting everything. He spent hours and hours with me just explaining the gospel. That was probably the beginning of my spiritual journey. I was starting to get really, really confused about why even have a religious point of view, why even have a spirituality. And right around the time I started asking all that questions, my friend, Cody, said, come with me to revival tonight. I want you to meet this guy, Jody.
What's Cody's last name?
McSwain.
Cody McSwain!
You know him?
That's what I write about in my book. I just couldn't say his name.
Really? What'd you say about him?
BK Boyd
Yeah.
and Cody.
Yeah.
That's who I used to hang with.
Yeah, Cody.
Cody.
Those were the white guys.
Cody was my guy. I talk about Cody in the book when I talk about how I used to hang out with these white kids. And my cousins used to hate that I hung out with the white kid. Cody was my guy in middle school.
Really?
be with him every day until my cousin scared him away. Cause they used to beat up on me so much. And Cody then was like, no.
In middle school?
It's Berkeley Middle School.
Yeah, right here.
Right here.
So Berkeley Middle School was the worst part of my life.
Why?
It's scary. You don't think so?
I mean, yeah, it was the worst part of mine. This what got me on the totally wrong path. Berkeley Middle School is what got me on the totally wrong path.
You know Tony, you remember him?
I don't remember, but I remember that name. I know Javon, Tony.
Yeah, he chased me into the hall one day and held me up like that.
Why?
I don't know, I stepped on his shoes.
Jesus Christ.
That's what this middle school was like. It was like welcome to the jungle.
People don't remember that. We going in or?
No,
people don't remember that.
Because I tell people, I'm like, I grew up in Moncks Corner and you know, you had to go to school ready to fight every day. They don't believe me because it's Moncks Corner.
Yeah.
But it was terrible.
Nah, it was bad. It was bad.
Why was it so bad?
I think because we didn't have nothing else to do.
Yeah. Because you were a good kid before you came to this school.
Sixth grade, I was here. Berkeley Middle School. And all my cousins who were the wannabe thugs pushed me around, beat up on me, slam me, make my glasses fall off. And then after a while, like, if you can't beat them, join them. I remember one day, my glasses already were so crooked, so I would wear my glasses crooked. And then one day they just dropped, shattered, and like, never looked back. And just started rolling with them. So from 7th grade.
So that was like the symbolic loss of your innocence.
Absolutely.
The glasses hit the ground.
That's a fact. That's a fact. In 7th grade, started thugging with them, failed 7th grade, had to go to summer school. 8th grade, still thugging, failed 8th grade, had to go to summer school. I was a full-blown problem in school. I was a problem child.
Yeah, but if you could rewind back and like not break the glasses and not go through that phase, would you have skipped that part of your life?
Well, I don't know. I've seen Back to the Future. So I feel like if I went back and I changed anything, then I probably wouldn't end up right here.
So you'd still break the glasses?
I think I would have to. You know what I mean?
You don't want your kids to break the glasses?
I don't want my kids to break the glasses, but that's what life's about, though. Life's about, I went through that, so they don't have to go through that.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes I walk through life like that because I walk through these halls like that.
It's funny you say that, man, because even with Darnell in the book, you know, he used to slam me.
You?
Yeah, in 7th grade.
Yeah.
You know, but he was just super strong. He'd just be slamming me, boom. So I would hate having to see him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Me too, man. I watched him beat a kid half to death out here one day, and it was like one of the craziest things I ever saw in my life. But I saw the attention he got from it. I saw how much he loved it. This is much nicer than what we had.
I don't know. This is foreign to me.
Yes,
this is not what Berkeley Middle School looked like for us growing up. Not at all.
No.
Like, not even a little bit.
The Christian faith that I first entered into when I was studying to be a pastor was so dogmatic. But what that does, it keeps you very ignorant to anybody who really holds any other beliefs because your whole goal is to convert them the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I go back to when I talk about being morally honest. Regardless of your belief, regardless of your religion, you are able to be objective. You know what I'm saying?
But in my training, that was almost seen as backsliding. It was almost you're not being loyal to God's word or faithful to God's word if I'm not trying to change you if what you believe is contrary to me. So I'm really not listening to what you believe or trying to filter if I believe it's true. I'm really trying to show you where you're wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and I realized that a lot of the people whose beliefs I was learning about, I didn't know anybody who believed it. I knew them through the filter of a book about them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's a real problem right now. I think it's a problem with race as well. I feel like no one is able to talk without outrage. There's instant outrage about every discussion.
Yeah, because people are listening with the intent to reply, not to truly understand.
Exactly.
And that's what I feel like. I gotta go back to being morally honest. Like, being morally honest means sitting down and actually listening to a person and understanding where they're coming from.
Yeah.
So it's like,
but those beliefs come early, man, because like we're standing here in this classroom. This is where I learned to be afraid of black people in this school. And I learned it because my dad taught me that.
Really?
Yeah.
Listen.
Yeah.
What were the reasons? I like this conversation.
No, my earliest memory of it was my dad never taught me that till I got to middle school and
started getting beat up and stuff.
Yeah, and one day I came home and I told him this thing happened on the bus, man. I was maybe one of 3 white kids on the bus. And I came home one day crying and he was saying, "Why are you crying?" And I explained it to him, but I'd got beat up so bad on that bus, I was so angry, and I came in and he shut the door, and I'll never forget, he was like, "I've been waiting to tell you this." And he unleashed on me, and I never heard any of it. I knew he wasn't right, but at the time, to explain my fear that I felt, it made sense of the world I was in. It gave me a way to see the world.
Absolutely. I mean, shoot, I'm thinking about it now. We used to grow up, our thing was, they used to be like, yo, punch a white boy. Let's go beat up a white boy. So that's probably what you got caught up in.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you probably just got randomly jumped for no reason and didn't know why.
And I took some of it on myself, even though I didn't take it to the level that he did. Here I am in 7th grade, and I get the message, and it's really fear-based, like black people are to be feared. You know, you have a couple encounters and you tell yourself that. It's not an intellectual belief, it's an emotional belief. None of those beliefs were things that I studied. I never read a book that taught me to feel a way about black people and white people. It was my experiences. It was my experiences of fear and his experiences of fear. And for years I was so embarrassed that he taught me that, but he grew up in Orangeburg, South Carolina. I mean, his childhood was
He probably
terrible.
grew up during the Orangeburg Massacre.
He did. He grew up during the Orangeburg Massacre, but he had really tried to suppress it, but it was still there. And now he's seeing his kid afraid. It brings back all of his fear and it's compounded. So he teaches me what he knows. He teaches me what he thinks is right and what's true. And so I wonder how much of what we call belief has nothing to do with intellect. It has to do with emotions that have been embedded and then reinforced.
Well, that's why you got it. You can't be afraid to unlearn.
The first thing, though, with my conversion to Christ was all of that left my heart. I can say that before my dad died, I saw his heart change too. Through watching my heart change. You know, he watched me sing in gospel choirs where I was the only white kid in high school, Voices of Unity. And it started to change his heart. When I was in college, I got to preach the sermon where my dad came forward to the altar. And one of the first things that happened, he really started to repent of his racism. I actually have a video of one of the last Father's Days that he was alive. He asked me to take him to church. So I skipped preaching at Elevation, came to Moncks Corner, drove him out into the country, all the way past Cordsville.
Cordsville.
Yeah, all the way past Cordsville to a church where me and him were the only white guys in there. I have a video of him that I don't even know how I thought to take it at the time, but you can see my dad, who had all these beliefs his whole life, clapping in a church where we were the only white guys. And then, you know, about a year later, he died. He died of ALS.
You know, I'm sitting there thinking about how many people didn't have the revelation that you had. You know what I'm saying? How many people were taught from this town to hate black people and never, ever, ever came to a revelation. They just carried that with them throughout life.
Even silently.
Yeah. Because that's a part of being morally honest, right? Moral honesty is 5% is teaching me all white men are the devil. And I'm like, that just don't sound right. Like, that's the broad generalization. You know what I'm saying? And moral honesty is somebody saying to you, there's no such thing as a good black person. And you're like, nah, that don't.
But I had too much experience at that point. You had too much experience. Like, our experience saved us from ignorance.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we didn't have that, we could have just as easily owned that as our worldview.
Absolutely. If you have never had dealt with any black people ever up until that point, you would have believed that. I think that a lot of the problems that come is the fact that, you know, what this country has done to us and hasn't apologized for. You understand what I'm saying? Like, they didn't even give us a fair chance to, like, be a productive community in America. That's why the best people to talk to are the white guys whose minds have been changed.
How do you get a white person to understand that who's never been exposed to it?
Just got to tell them the story. And if they choose to do their own research and actually, you know, look at it and educate themselves and acknowledge what really happens in this country, I think your mind would change.
I think it's relationship. I think once you know one black person who shares their experience with injustice, it changes because it becomes a lens through a person that you care about rather than an argument. And I think we're not allowing any context for people to ask dumb questions right now. And so there's very little growth happening. I agree with that.
I do agree with that only because, like, I remember when Lady Gaga asked, she said, what can I do? What can white people do to make this better? And I always say, yo, use your privilege to combat prejudice.
Yeah.
And the way you use your privilege to combat prejudice is by educating yourself to the real history of this country and then speaking out against it. You understand what I'm saying? Like, and that's what bothers me. Like, silence to me is a cosign. Like, if you're not willing to speak out against the injustices that you see happening in this country to anybody, then you're not even a real human being to me. Like, as a man, you know, I got to use my male privilege to combat misogyny, you know, and, you know, as a straight man, I got to use my straight privilege to combat homophobia. So as a white man, you got to use your privilege to combat racism. Listen, man, I'm at the point in my life where all I care about is moral honesty at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care about race, religion, political party, none of that. Is it right? Is it wrong? You know what I'm saying?
There has to be a God to decide that. There has to be a moral authority. It can't be just you and what you think, though.
I think so.
You think it can?
Yeah, because I feel like God gives us all an innate ability to know what's right and what's wrong. And that's not about being a minority anymore. That's just about good versus evil. And I really feel like that's where we're at right now in this country. We're in a place where it's not about what religion you are, what political party, conservative, liberal, none of that matters. It's about right and wrong, good and evil, God and Satan.
The evil that is within me is what I'm most concerned about at this stage. I'm at age 37.
Today it's levels of evil.
Yeah, because I don't trust myself. There's certainly degrees of evil or sin or wickedness, you know. They're all English words, and the Bible was written in Greek and Hebrew, so people want to make the words all the same. You know, sin is sin. Well, what was sin? Sin was an archery term. It meant to miss the mark. So sin was not a category then. It was an actual term that the people understood. So now when we're getting into vocabulary lessons, we're talking about right and wrong, good and evil. My thing is there has to be moral authority. There has to be someone who is the referee or the umpire, because Jesus has this saying, you kill the prophets and think you offer God service. And I think there are people who are in that exact category. They really are calling evil good and good evil. It's just all of that, that's all of the weirdness that gets into religion with me, and I think that's what kind of keeps people away from religion. And that's sad, because keeping people away from religion is keeping people away from God. Because in order to even get to that point where you say, I'm a spiritual person and not a religious person, you would have had some type of religion. You know, it's funny what you just said when Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but by me. People always use that scripture to say, so if you don't believe in Jesus, you can't get to God, which of course, as a Christian, we believe Jesus is the way to God. But he also said, I'm the gate. And what he was trying to say is, like, all the religious gatekeepers who think that they know who God is and who God accepts and who God doesn't, they're not the gate. I'm the gate, you know? He was expressing that as an inclusive statement, but people have used it so many times to shut the door on people from even exploring faith. So that's a good conversation, man. I love it, like literally. I mean, Donkey of the Day is like a sermon, isn't it? Don't you think? I keep hearing that. Pastor Carl always tells me that. Does he? I want you to meet somebody that had the biggest impact on me. He just came to see me. Oh, wow. Pastor Mickey, this is Charlamagne. Charlamagne, nice to meet you. How are you, sir? And this is Miss Zeta. Hey, how are you? So nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. So listen, you know who this is? Yes, sir. I'll tell you what Pastor Mickey did. Okay. He brought me to be his youth minister when I was 16. Gave me my first chance to preach. He was the sponsor of the FCA, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. So he saw me, thought I had potential. He goes over to... Sorry, I was wrong. he goes over to my mom's house. He's like, let your son come be my youth minister. I'm gonna take you to the building and show you. That's where we're going next. Okay. He let me be his youth pastor, and that's how my whole ministry started. Wow. And he just stopped by to see me for a minute. Wow, that's what's up. Now, Charlamagne and I were in high school at the same time, but didn't know each other. And then he went, he's now one of the major radio personalities in hip hop music and has written a New York Times bestseller. Wow. So what we're doing today, we are driving around and telling our story to each other of how, you know, like going to Berkeley Middle School, what that was like for him, how God gave each of us our calling, and just sharing our stories. Yes, sir. Pretty cool.
So where do you live now?
New York. Well, New Jersey, but I work in New York.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but all my family, my mom, dad, everybody still live in Moncks Corner.
He's one of the most brilliant communicators on the planet.
Listen, I'm glad that one of Steven's classmates kind of made it, you know?
You're awesome. Praise the Lord.
Love you. I know you're on a tight schedule. Love you.
Love you. Thank you.
Good to meet you.
Thank you. I'm glad you stopped by.
See y'all.
I don't know. Throwing a football.
Good to meet you.
Throwing the football?
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Love you.
Bye.
I love you too.
Good to see you.
Take care. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Bye, y'all.
I'll drive so you can eat.
Oh, word. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think you got no gas. Or do you?
No, it's maybe a seatbelt.
Oh. Oh, I don't got my seatbelt on there.
You worried about me running out of gas?
But we used to
save your life.
I know, right?
How many meals have you had at the Huddle House?
Oh my God. Oh my God, that Huddle Burger, oh man.
You go to that Chinese restaurant?
Yeah, my wife used to work right there. My wife used to work at KFC.
She did?
I don't think I've ever eaten at Gilligan's, y'all. But yeah, I have.
I ate there last night.
Was it good?
Yeah, it's all you can eat shrimp. Pastor Mickey, who you just met, this is the Woodman of the World building, where he was pastoring, maybe 20, 30 kids. And I would come here on Wednesday night and teach them Bible study. That's where I started my ministry.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll show you. I was the song leader too. So like I would lead the hymns. I haven't been in here since.
What is this building now?
Well, it's Woodman of the World, which is like a social club. I don't know what they do in here now.
Woodman?
Woodman? Yeah, Woodman.
Like logging?
I guess so. So it was just like folding tables, and we would feed the kids, and I would teach Bible study in here. But this is probably where I preached. This was the main worship center. It didn't have pews, it had chairs. That's crazy.
Wow.
Hadn't been in here in 20 years till right now.
How's it feel?
Well, I had to lead the hymns, and I didn't know all the Baptist hymns because I was in the Methodist church, so my mom had to teach them to me. She would figure them out on the piano the night before. 16-year-old kid, man, and some Dockers and some extra large Tommy Hilfiger up there, old school leading hymns. And I don't know why Pastor Mickey even let me do that. He just gave me a chance. At that point, that was when really I sensed I was gonna preach the rest of my life. I mean, it was very strong to me. I read a book around the same time that was about a pastor in New York, the Brooklyn Tabernacle, Jim Cymbala. And he wrote a book about just being a pastor in the city. And there was a line in the book, he said, I despaired at the thought my life might slip by without God showing himself greatly on our behalf. And then he told the stories. And I just felt it. I felt like this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna help people, I'm gonna be a pastor. And so I just started listening to as many preachers as I could, I stopped listening to as much music, I stopped playing in my bands as much. And I just came out here, and this is where I learned ministry, because on Friday nights there would be like church council meeting, 40, 50, 60-year-olds around the table, and me, this 16, 17-year-old kid, just learning it all. But I mean, did you have something like that, a place like this where you found your calling?
It was the studio, like being in that studio, like being in that microphone, hearing your voice recorded, and like being in there before I even got a chance to crack the microphone, just being an intern, like the guy that would go get everybody their pizza, go with people to different remotes to help them set up, like just being in that building, just being in that building, watching them do what they do. I used to be the fly on the wall. I would just sit in the studio and watch them do their show, and then I just realized like I really enjoyed doing this. So when the music director Ron White came and asked me, he was like, "Yo, you ever thought about being on the radio?" I'm like, "No." He was like, "You should really be on the air." I'm like, "Let's do it. When you want me to start?" And I wasn't scared at all. It just it felt natural, so to speak. And I remember Tessa Spencer, who's a big media personality here, called me and she was like, "You sound really good." She was like, "You sound really good." Like, and I've had the chance to tell her that a few times, but she don't understand the battery she put in my back. You know what I mean? Like, she put a real battery in my back.
That's so true, man. You got to meet Pastor Mickey a minute ago, and I'll never forget him telling my mom, he said, I've never seen God's hand on someone like I see his hand on Steven. Wow. And that includes my own children.
Wow.
And I didn't even know what that meant at age 16, but it made me take everything seriously all of a sudden. And it made all of the petty stuff of like losing friends because maybe I wasn't gonna be involved in what I was involved in, or just all the insecurity and everything. It gave me something to go off of, He saw it and he spoke it, and I wouldn't have seen it in myself.
It's funny how when you sit back and you watch how God can direct your steps, so to speak. Like, I thought I wanted to be a rapper. So I meet Willie Will. Willie Will tells me about Z93 going to get an internship. So then I get the chance to be on the radio. Then Tessa tells me I sound great. And that's just all the spark I need. Like that's what my whole story is. My whole story is rooted in a great foundation of spirituality. But then it was a whole lot of divine misdirection because I wasn't doing what God wanted me to do. And like, I feel like for people to read that story and see me go all of these different places, but end up where I ultimately feel like God wants me to be. And if you ask me right now, what does God want me to do? I know to serve. That's what you do. You know what I'm saying? You're just you're a pastor.
Yeah.
But I feel like I do the same thing. I'm just not a pastor. You know, I'm just here to serve the needs of the public in some way, shape, or form. Like, and you'd be surprised how many times I pray before I speak. You know what I mean? Like, I'll pray and ask God to say the right things at the right time.
Because you still know that you're nothing without him.
Always. I'm constantly praying, constantly asking God to put things on my heart, constantly asking God to give me direction.
God knows he can tap you and you'll do it.
I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it because...
You think that's all he's looking for? I think that's all he's looking for is somebody he knows he can tap.
That's it. I've gone through this whole process, grown as a human being, grown as a man, and I feel like I'm really just starting a journey that's gonna be greater than anything I can ever imagine. Yeah. And I kind of feel like you feel that way too.
I do feel that way. All of the things that God has you doing, like he's a master of taking your life experiences, and he knows what town you need to be born in, and he knows what you need to not get from people. And in your case, he knew that you needed to not know how to do radio to do radio. He knows what education you shouldn't get, you know. And I'm just so obsessed with this idea of helping people understand that they have a calling as significant as ours. It doesn't have to be Instagram followers, and it doesn't have to be a microphone, because people will associate calling with fame, or they'll associate calling with notoriety. And it's so much bigger than that. I mean, it's something that a mom can experience. It's something, I think it's much deeper than what you do. I think it's how you do it. I told the church the other day, I said, it matters more where you finished than where you started. But what matters more than either is how you get there.
How you get there. I agree with everything you're saying, and you said something just now that clicked in me, because everybody always asks me, you know, what was that moment you felt like you made it? And I was like, I don't. I feel like I've arrived. It has nothing to do with entertainment. It has nothing to do with radio. It has nothing to do with being a New York Times bestseller. It has nothing to do with television. I feel like I've arrived because I honestly feel like I know what it is to be a man, and be a man that God wants to use. You know what I'm saying? I've arrived because I've arrived because I feel like I'm fully embracing being of service.
The sphere you do it in and the sphere I do it in are very different. But I felt drawn to your story for that reason, because here's a guy who actually grew up on the same streets as me, but I drove past places and he drove past places where both of our lives happened, where we never even knew each other. To me, it was interesting to say, how could we grow up in such a small place, you know, and then both go out and do what we feel like God has called us to do from the same place? Like, this Moncks Corner thing shaped us and made us who we were, but if we had stayed only in what we knew in this town, we would never be doing what we do.
We probably would have never crossed paths to this day. Think about that.
Yeah.
If we both would have stayed in this town with the mindsets we had, we probably would have never crossed paths.
We had to leave to meet.
We had to leave to meet.
Yeah.